Welcome to Mailbag Monday on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Welcome in. I'm Jay Zawaski with Greg Boysen and Mario Tirabassi. And fellas, we are, about 18 hours or so removed from the Hawks 7-2 loss at the Jets. If you missed last night's postgame show, it was a doozy. Make sure you go check that out. But today, as we do most Mondays, we're going to dedicate the show to answering your many, many Blackhawks questions. How's it going, fellas?
Good. It's the original Mailbag Monday segment on CHGO. Don't let any intimidators fool you. We came up with this idea.
Yeah, we invented the whole concept of the Mailbag podcast was invented by us, and now it's being thieved by our colleagues and by our enemies. And I, for one, will not stand for it.
Look, they don't throw out those trademark symbols just to anybody.
Right.
All right. So, when you see
We're
that
hearing from our
TM,
lawyers.
when you see that TM, it's original.
Well, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page as well as I adjust my background. There we go. Subscribe to the YouTube page as well. Make sure you are, if you're listening at the podcast, that you subscribe there, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen. Make sure you're subscribed to the CHGO Blackhawks podcast and all the great CHGO podcasts. And one final reminder, it is Cyber Monday here at CHGO. If you're looking to stock up on CHGO merch, I've got my CHGO Fire shirt on right now. It's on the bottom left of your page there. If you're watching on YouTube, up to 50% off everything in store at CHGOlocker.com. And you diehards, you save even more. In addition, 20% off. So last I checked, that's up to 70% off everything in store at CHGOlocker.com. If you're not a diehard yet, here's a great opportunity to jump in and take advantage of these massive savings. And guess what? You sign up to be a diehard and you get a free shirt or hat of your choice anyway. So there you go. Get a free hat, get a free shirt, save 70%. What more do you need to do? It pays for itself, like we told you when this Die Hard program launched a couple weeks ago, and it's been a huge success. So thanks to everybody who jumped on to become a Die Hard recently or who's been a Die Hard since day one. We appreciate it either way.
Yes, jump on those deals. It's a good time to do so. It's the holiday season, and nothing shows how much you care about a loved one than a nice CHGO t-shirt or hoodie.
I just had a great idea of our next Die Hard virtual event. We can do our diehards watch Die Hard virtually with CHGO personalities. It's Christmas movie. It's Christmas time.
Christmas time. Yep.
I thought you were going to suggest like a fashion show like in Slapshot, where the three of us go model all of our.
Well, we got to wait to that's off season topic. Yeah.
Giving Greg the forceful look. All right, let's get to these questions because we've got a ton. Steven is running the show today. So, Steven, go ahead, just throw one up there and we'll get to it. All right, this one comes from Ted. He says, so far, Kyle Davidson's trades have focused on the draft picks rather than prospects. Do you get any indication from your club sources that might change this year? Well, you know what, Ted? That's a good question. And that's something we've talked about a little bit where he hasn't really gone out in pursuit of picking up other teams' young players. And that's something as we were sort of speculating what might happen with Alex DeBrincat. We were looking at, the Devils just would not go away in that conversation. And we were talking about some of their prospects and who might be part of a package. But yeah, so far, all the trades, aside from, Peter Mrazek, which was to get a first-round pick to take on a bad contract, it's all been draft picks. And I would like to see Davidson pick up a team's younger players to start filling out this roster next year a little bit with guys that can do a little more than your Reese Johnsons and your other Reese Johnsons because there's 50 of them.
Yeah, I think it's more situational. Like, of course, he went for picks last year because he had no first round picks, so he needed to get some picks.
Yeah,
I think he's focusing on picks this year just because of the depth and the quality of this draft class. You want to get as many scratch offs as possible in that first round, and then after that, I think I think we'll see more of the, hey, okay, we're going to have this roster next year with all this salary cap space, but we don't want to get too good. So we'll take your worst contract and your best prospect off your hands for little to nothing. I think you may start seeing some prospects tagged to some bad contracts as they try and hit the cap floor next season, because I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I also want you to be informed. So when it actually happens, we don't have all this fake outrage we've had the last few days. Next year's team is probably going to be worse than this year's team. Just brace yourself now.
Yeah.
So I think it's more situational. I think they'll obviously be focusing on getting some already drafted prospects as well. And you may see more with them trying to take on bad contracts.
I think it's less likely too that teams are more willing to give up a prospect than a pick, because giving up a pick is it's a chance. It's like we said, like it's kind of a lottery ticket. Giving up a prospect, one that's already maybe shown you a bit of what they can do, whether it's in Europe or juniors or in the NCAA or wherever it is. I think teams are a little less likely to give up those kinds of players unless it's like, a prospect that maybe hasn't turned the corner in their development path that they might have expected to at a certain point. So I think teams are a little bit more likely to hold on to those players until maybe a deal comes by that they really have to make. But I think this past summer in the draft, Davison was really focused on getting as many picks. I think that'll be the scenario again. Like Greg said, given the depth of this draft class, where second round picks this year could have been first round picks last year, like that's what we continuously hear from the draft analysts and scouts and things. So I think it'll still be picks until we get into next season.
Greg, something interesting you said where the team's going to be worse than they were last year. That I think that's probably true. However, I do feel like next year's team will be a little more interesting to watch because there will be a couple guys that you could potentially see being part of this thing when they're good again. I mean, I don't think there's any way they could justify keeping Reichel down beyond this year. Even if he plays this entire year in Rockford, there's no way you can't start the season without him next year. There's some other young prospects you'll probably want to bring up, and that will at least make the team a little more interesting, because we were talking about it last night. Like, it's one thing, like we compared it to the Bears. Like, yeah, the Bears are losing every game, but you're getting to watch Justin Fields develop, right? And you're seeing some other younger guys kind of stake their claim on the future of this team. This Hawks roster doesn't have anybody like that, except maybe Philip Kurashev. That's really the only guy.
But he's not even like a Fields level guy. Like Kurashev is not. You're not building around him.
Right.
Yeah. Let's get to a question from the chat here from Jim. Sorry, you got anything else to add there?
No, go ahead.
Jim says, what would be the market for a guy like Domi or Athanasiou? Both seem to be playing better than just filler. Yeah, that's kind of the idea of getting them, is you feel like you can probably flip them for, I would say, at least a third. That would be, I would think maybe a little more than that.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, you might be able to get a little bit more than for those two guys. Those are two players that have a skill set that teams that are contending as we get later in the season and start looking at what they want to be able to do in the postseason as they try to build out their roster for a potentially deep Stanley Cup playoff run. Like Domi is a guy that you can throw into your middle or bottom six on a contending team and give you some grittiness, give you some edge, and also bring skill along with it. Like, he's not just going to be out there trying to agitate people. He can also, he can play. And Athanasiou is a guy who is just he's got a ton of speed, and he's got a ton of willingness to take the puck directly to the net. As if there's no other play that he can make, he has no qualms about just trying to burn somebody and go directly to the net. And those are guys that on contending teams, in those kind of role player roles, teams want those kinds of guys. So I think as we get deeper into the season, closer to the deadline, I think we're going to see, if they keep this up, we're going to see a pretty hefty market for those guys. If they can get multiple mid-round or even up into the second round picks, you should do it. You definitely should do that kind of deal.
Yeah, Domi's got his second highest point per game average of his career going right now at 0.67. So 2 points every 3 games he's averaging. That's second best of his career. So that's pretty good. And Athanasiou has shown those flashes. I think if you have your expectations of getting a 3rd round pick for each, you're not going to be disappointed on the trade deadline. You'll either get exactly that, or you'll be happy that maybe you got a little bit more. It all depends on how they go and how, you kind of want a ton of teams competing for wild card spots. You don't want like basically 9 teams in it, on each conference, because that really shrinks the market. All of a sudden, or I should say it floods the market. All of a sudden you have 11, 12 teams selling. You want that Eastern Conference to stay crazy tight to where you only have 5 or 6 teams really selling at the deadline, because then all of a sudden those guys become more valuable because there's just not as many of them on the market. So in a perfect scenario, both playoff races in the East and West become very, very tight, stay tight to where there's only 6 or 7 teams that are really looking to unload guys. And then all of a sudden it becomes a buyer's market.
Let's get to our
seller's market. Sorry.
A $2 super chat from Alton. He says, who do you think represents the Blackhawks in the All-Star game this season? Probably Patrick Kane.
Kane or Taves if they're still here.
If Kane is still on the team, it'll be him. But there's no rule that says the Blackhawks must be represented at the All-Star game. So we'll see. But they leave it up to fan vote. I think, fans know Patrick Kane. Sometimes that helps. Sometimes that, puts a guy in that maybe doesn't deserve to be there. But if Patrick Kane is still on the team when the All-Star game comes around, it'll be him.
Yeah, probably Kane or Taves. And then, you know what? Screw it. Let's John Scott, Jack Johnson right to the All-Star game. Let's do it. Let's start that campaign right now. That would be fun.
I like that.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. I would, and you can maybe do like hey, this guy's old, and let's give him one last hurrah here in the All-Star game.
Yeah, everybody likes Jack Johnson.
He's certainly been in the top 10% of Hawks this year, that's for sure.
We'll get that Denver vote.
Yeah, there you go. What do we got next, Steven? This one from Nathan. He says, I feel like we are beginning to see some real frustration start to peek through with this team, which I understand, but could be very unhealthy for the locker room, not against the coach, just in general. Well, you saw after last night's game that players-only meeting was called, and it was brief, and I've asked some people around the team what they've heard about it, and because there was no practice today, no one was really around. So it kind of remains to be seen, like, what the tenor of that was. But Jonathan Toews speaking last night, just kind of saying, like, hey, we got to get it together. We got to be ready to go. And it sounded more of like on the players to take responsibility than they were upset with any sort of coaching decisions or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think it was hey, let's do it for ourselves here. It was more of, hey, the coaches are telling us what to do. We're not doing it. Let's change that. Like I think I saw a lot of reaction to players only meeting and people saying that, oh, Richardson's lost the room already. That couldn't be further from the truth. Richardson even said last night, he says, I didn't go in there. I normally don't go in there after losses. I really only go in there after wins to see who they give the championship belt to and have a little fun with that. But, Richardson's the type of guy that what the expectations are, and you shouldn't need to have him come in there and yell at you after a loss. You know what you did wrong, figure it out.
Yeah, I think the point was made on last night's show that, maybe the idea that the players understand, the big picture here from the organization, and they know no reinforcements are coming. They are the Blackhawks this year, and as the season continues, a good portion of them are not going to finish the year as Blackhawks. So I do wonder if that is kind of in all of those players' heads a little bit, even if they don't, admit to it. And the middle of a 7-game losing streak losing 13 out of their last 15 games. If it's an opportunity for those players to kind of look around the room, look at each other, and just be like, look, we're in the shit. Like, let's try and we got to dig ourselves out of it. We got to start, playing more as a unit and less individual. You got to be smarter, and to the point that we've made on this show multiple times, they have to be as close to mistake free as possible to even be in some of these games. So hopefully it was more of a discussion of like, look, like this, we don't expect this group to be around for a long time, but let's make it for a good time at least.
Yeah, I don't think. Go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't think being frustrated in the locker room is necessarily unhealthy. That shows that they give a crap. Yeah. If they were just kind of like, haha, whatever, we lost again, that's a little more unhealthy to me than being frustrated.
Yeah, if you don't show any emotion, then that means that that's showing that it doesn't mean anything to you. If you're showing frustration, it means something.
Yeah, you saw the Athanasiou pissed off last night after the clear interference call was not called, and you've seen the tempers flare, and that's a sign of a team that does care and does give a crap. The concept of Richardson losing the team is kind of laughable to me because I don't really know what he has done to lose the team. He's kept lines together. He's made some changes where they need to be made, bringing guys in and out. He's playing a pretty decent rotation where guys are not sitting out too long and just not playing for long stretches of time. At some point, it's up to the players to perform. And yeah, they don't have a ton of talent, but 7-2 should not happen in the NHL, right? The talent gap should never be so big between the worst and the best. And guess what? Winnipeg's not the best by any stretch of the imagination. I think the Hawks just match up against them really, really poorly. But at some point it's on the players. We talked last night, Peter Mrazek was bad in that start and probably made it look a lot worse than it actually was. But they've got to find a way. Like the Dallas game was just, what in the hell? You're up 4-1 with 10 minutes to go. Get it together.
Yeah.
Pull it together. If you got to ice it for 9 minutes, do it. Find a way.
I think that start of the season and that 4-game winning streak earlier was more of a curse than a blessing to Luke Richardson, because then people had the expectation that that's what we're going to see all season, even though when it was like, no, this is clearly an anomaly. Like, let's enjoy this fun little streak of success because they're not going to happen very often this season. I think some people were saying, hey, maybe this team isn't as bad as we thought. And now it's the opposite, and they're kind of upset. Like, what happened to that team? Well, that's not the real Blackhawks.
Right. Yeah. Let's go to the next question here, Steven, if you can throw it up there. This one's from Kevin. This is a pretty good question. Who on the roster is improving under the new head coach?
Philip Kurashev tops that list for me.
I think that's for sure. I think you could say Andreas Athanasiou has added a two-way dimension to his game that we didn't really expect to see from him this year. You get some credit for making him look better. There's just not a lot of prospects on the team that are going to take huge steps, right? It's just, there's guys that are set, but Jonathan Toews has played his best hockey in years. It's probably not fair to give Luke Richardson that credit, but if we're answering the question of who's looked better under the new coach, he's definitely one of them.
Yeah. Year over year, it's Jonathan Toews is in that conversation. Yeah, I think Philip Kurashev is definitely being given a regular role, kind of being given more of a defined role. Needed that, and I think he's made the most of that opportunity. Another player that I think maybe it's just again making the most of an opportunity, but Jason Dickinson, like I don't think. Again, I didn't know much about his career or anything he really did before this season, but nothing jumped off the page when going back and kind of looking at his career path, and he's been relatively effective. And I don't know if that's just he's getting more time here than he did ever in Dallas or did in Vancouver. But I think, he's making the most of an opportunity, and that could be from Richardson, pushing the right buttons.
Yeah, it's hard to because like I said, there are no developing real players on this team. I guess you could say Taylor Radish has been better lately. Sam Lafferty, when he joined the Hawks, that was last year, different coach, but he's been kind of the same guy since he got here.
Yeah.
Narfin brings up Jared Tenorti, who's been decent and surprising at times. That's a guy who was a career AHL player who's playing top 4 minutes for you and doing a pretty decent job. Look, he's not, Nicholas Lidstrom by any means, but he's come in here and has provided steady Luke Richardson style defense.
Right. Yeah.
So there are some. It just right now, there's the only one you could really look at is who needs to develop is Philip Kurashev. And I think all of us would agree that Kurashev has really been a nice addition this year and has gotten better and has earned his spot on the top 6.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another guy I'd add to that list that's played well under Luke Richardson is a guy we all joked about. I just joked about him a couple minutes ago, but Jack Johnson has been a lot better than we gave him credit for coming into the season. We all kind of joked and said, "Oh man, Jack Johnson, look at the numbers. He's just here to help the tank." And that might not necessarily been untrue, but he's been solid this year. There haven't been many times he's been out there and you've been like, "Oh crap, Jack Johnson's out there. Hold on to your," he's been fine. He's been much better than expected, I think. So with a veteran like Jack Johnson, is that because of Luke Richardson? Who knows, but he's been better than expected.
Yeah, I think knowing who is how players are developing under Richardson, I don't think we'll know until we get to maybe mid-season next year when we see some prospects come up maybe later this season and then into next season, or start next season with a couple of younger guys that are in Rockford right now.
Jason brings up a good point in the chat and says it's hard to rate a bunch of bottom pairing defensemen playing well above their heads. That's it. I mean, this team, Seth Jones, and basically an arsenal of bottom pair defensemen. Look, Connor Murphy and Seth and Jake McCabe, if they're on a contender, that might be your bottom pair. And it's not a knock on those two. They're probably on an average team, at least Murphy's middle pair. Jake McCabe is probably an elite 5 or a pretty good 6 or a pretty good 4.
Yeah.
But it's Seth Jones and a bunch of guys basically. So it's, it is really hard to evaluate.
They'd be number ones on the Maple Leafs.
How about Caleb Jones? Is he worth it? I mean, yes, he's had some, when you look at the end of the game stat sheet, he's had a -5 and there have been some costly mistakes, but when he's in a situation to succeed, on the bottom 6 and on the bottom pair rather, and playing those sort of minutes, he's sort of taken advantage of those opportunities. Like as soon as Seth came back, Caleb has looked a hell of a lot better because he's being deployed properly.
Yeah, he doesn't have to play 20 minutes and play in all scenarios. He doesn't have to be his brother. He can be the number 6 defenseman, play on the power play, play some lower responsibility minutes and be fine. And that's who he is. And I agree. Since Seth has come back, Caleb has benefited from it.
Yep. All right, Steven, let's get to the next one here. Something from Sung Hyun on Discord. If you want to join our Diehards only Discord, allchgo.com, become a diehard and you will get access to our Discord page. He says, should we be concerned if more players only meetings happen as the season progresses and the losses keep coming? Well, the losses are going to keep coming. That's inevitable. It's a matter of how they lose, right? It's one thing to the Pittsburgh game where you fall behind, you battle back, and you lose in the last second, or like Montreal, you lose in overtime. It's another thing to lose 7-2 or to blow a 4-1 lead. There's different degrees of losses. Look, if things like that keep happening, then yes, I think there is reason for concern. But if they just happen to be losing 3-2, 4-2, 3-1, just kind of normal quote unquote losses, that's kind of exactly what this team is designed to do.
Yeah, the season opening game against the Avs, we were half joking, but it was it's going to be 8-1, and it was 5-2. It wasn't close, but it also was this wasn't the ass kicking we expected it to be. And against teams that are not the Avs, those results can be, like you said, competitive losses if if that's what the case is for these Blackhawks, and it's going to be because they're going to be out-talented, outmatched in most games that they play, as long as they're competitive, as long as there's things you can point to and say, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is something you can build on, the players only meetings shouldn't continue to be happening. It is the losses that you're just like, are the embarrassing losses. Those are the ones that you have to be concerned about. And if those keep continuing, and if we say, oh, okay, players only meeting, like, honestly, it does come down to the players. Like, Luke Richardson can X's and O's and system and put all these guys in the right positions. And for the most part, they're being in the right positions. I'm not really seeing too many games where there are astronomical breakdowns that lead to blowouts like we saw last season. This season, I think it's just that they don't have the horses to keep up with most teams. So it's down to the players to try and dig deep in those situations. But I don't think player only meetings are very frequent. So if there's another one, I really don't know what would bring it about.
Yeah. Players only meetings with teams that have very low expectations are a little weird too. Like, it's one thing if you're the Colorado Avalanche and you're 30th in the league after a month, maybe you have a players only meeting, but
right.
When you're exactly where you were expected to be, it's like, okay, all right, have another meeting, guys.
Yeah, and I think we should be cautious of like referring to it as necessarily a players only meeting. Like you said, Luke is not someone who's in the locker room most of the time anyway after a loss. He lets the players sort things out by himself. He said that over and over again. So if he wasn't in there, that's normal. And if they just decide to say, hey, wait, before we go talk to the media, let's all talk it out in here real quick. Okay, ready, break. I guess technically that's a players only meeting, but I don't know if it was like called to order and Jonathan Toews like, everybody in here right now. You know what I mean? I don't know if it necessarily, I don't know. It might have been, but I don't want to jump to that conclusion that, well, Luke wasn't in there. Well, he's never in there. He does not bug the guys after the game. He wants his leaders to lead and take control of the team. That way he doesn't want to be a meddler. So, it's unique. We're going to tell you about our great sponsors coming up here in a second. But reminder, Sunday, got another CHGO Chicago football tailgate against the hated bastards from Wisconsin. Come join us this Sunday, 8:30 a.m. The festivities kick off at Michigan and Roosevelt. Food from Greenridge Farm, beer from Goose Island, water from Liquid Death. That is a 3 for 3, my friends. That is about as amazing of a trio as you can get. Go to allchgo.com to secure your tickets. All food and drinks are included with your ticket. You don't need a ticket to the football game to come to the tailgate, by the way. You can just come hang out with us and then head home and watch the bar at a watering hole or go home, whatever you want to do. You don't need a ticket to the Bears game to come to the CHGO tailgate. So go to allchgo.com to secure your tickets and join us out there on Sunday at 8:30.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a situation where the tailgate is going to be way more enjoyable than the game if we have a Nathan Peterman, Jordan Love quarterback matchup.
I saw that Fields might play.
A quick note if you're yeah, maybe. I hope my fantasy team hopes so. A quick note for our diehard members: if you want to do the tailgate, make sure you're clicking on the diehard link on the website account, as opposed to heading just to the normal link. You'll see that over at allchgo.com. Make sure you're getting your diehard benefits of discounted tickets to our official professional football tailgates.
There you go.
Yeah, and if you're diehard, that means you like spending your money right, spending it well, spending it smart. And if you're into that and you're into saving money and saving energy, you should definitely check out our friends over at ComEd with their energy efficiency programs, committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future. ComEd offers a wide array of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across their territory. Customers can inquire about how to upgrade outdated lighting to energy and money-saving efficient LED lights. Learn more about network lighting to operate your lights through your mobile device and track your facility's energy usage and more. Incentives have recently increased for indoor, outdoor lighting and networked lighting controls, making these projects even more cost-effective than before. If you want to reach out to them, you can visit comed.com/poweringbiz to start saving money and energy. And to start a project, you can call them at 855-433-2700. For more information, email businessee@comed.com or publicsectoree@comed.com.
And we know we told you don't need a ticket to the Bears game on Sunday to join us at the tailgate. But if you're looking for one, the best place to get it is at Game Time. Go to the description of this podcast, hit that like button on your way down, and then go to our Game Time link to save on Bears tickets. Game Time is the hottest new ticketing site, and it makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. Have you ever dreamed of sitting in your seat you never thought you could? 50-yard line, courtside. How about right along the Green Bay sidelines? You can tell Aaron Rodgers what you think of it. It's possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you thought you could never buy. You won't find a better deal on Chicago tickets this season. They're created by the fans, for the fans, and they guarantee the lowest price. So if you're on some other ticketing website and you see a lower price, reach out to Game Time. They will beat the deal. That is a guarantee. And if you love CHGO, then you will love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in our description. Join over 15 million people who've downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events. And fellas, we were looking at the Hawks upcoming schedule on Game Time last night. Edmonton in town Wednesday night. By the way, 8:30 puck drop at the United Center on Wednesday. Yay.
Yeah, late one.
$17 to come and see Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Oilers at the United Center. $17 gets you in the door. So jump on Game Time using that link in our description, and you will save. That's going to be fun, except for the start time. But I will not complain publicly about the start time because I love my job. I'm not going to bitch about it. Plus, we get free soup.
Yeah, that's right.
Gummy bears and Whoppers and whatnot.
It's worse jobs to have than being paid to watch NHL hockey at 8:30 at night.
Yeah.
All right, Steven, let's fire up the next one here. Bob B. says,
Bobby.
We're a quarter of the way into the season. Over under, do you think the Hawks get to 25 wins this year?
No chance in hell.
They're at 6 through 25%. So 25% times 4 is 100%. 6 times 4 is 24. I don't think they do it. I don't think they do it. And the roster is going to get worse as the season goes on.
Yep.
I don't think they do it.
Tough to see.
Hate to see it.
Yeah.
Hey, Connor Bedard, 53 points in 24 games.
I wouldn't. I'm not sure I'd even bet at 20 wins at this point, but we'll see.
Oof, that's gonna be rough.
Hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's what they're designed to do. Region Rev is excited because we're going to see double anthems as we've seen the last few games. I love the old double anthem. I like when in French too.
There's been a lot of Canadian teams coming through the UC recently. Yeah. It's been fun. Honestly, it started as a bit, but I truly believe it. They should just sing both at every game. Like, the majority of the league is Canadian. Like, just do it. Who cares? It's a good song. It's a good time.
Yeah, I love it.
Better the two songs.
Greg, why are you so un-American?
It is a better song. There's no doubt about it. But whether Canada or US is a different story, but it's a better anthem, hands down. There's no doubt.
You guys don't have the national anthem on your iPods?
I don't have an iPad anymore. I'm only 44. Yeah. Yeah. It's it is a certainly better anthem. I don't think anyone would really argue with that, would they?
No. I'm trying to have some fun.
I also like the remember in Rocky IV, the Soviet national anthem? That sounded really like intimidating and like scary. That was a cool one too. Anthem draft.
Yeah, there we go.
Nobody does the Russian national anthem. Nobody does the Russian national anthem better than Nikolai Volkov, R.I.P.
That's pretty good. You won't be doing any more of those, though. That's for sure. All right, Steven, let's fire up the next one here. Here's Chucko Mucko, our buddy, says, what will the Hawks roster look like next season? Is Anaheim's current season, year 2 of the rebuild, a window into the future of the Hawks' lack of success in 2023-24? It's interesting that we're going to make the Anaheim comparison here because they should be better than they are. Like, they've got their 2 cornerstone pieces in McTavish and in Zegras. Like, they should be, and like the rest of the team around them isn't great, but it's also not terrible by any means.
Yeah, I think it's been really underwhelming to see Anaheim with McTavish and Drysdale and Zegras and Troy Terry. Like those are some of the young guys that I think the team is hanging a lot of their future on. So you would have thought, that they'd have turned a little bit of a corner, but yeah, it looks like they're going to be down with the Blackhawks in the standings here for maybe the rest of the season. But I think looking at next season, like we said earlier, there's no way that Lukas Reichel shouldn't be on that roster for the full season. I got prickly on Twitter today, but a lot of people were saying like, you gotta, bring in the young guys and see what you have with your prospects. Like this season is not about that. This rushing prospects to the NHL before they're ready just to get their heads caved in when they're 18, 19, 20 years old and ruin their confidence, ruin their development path, like stunt their growth at the NHL level just to say, oh, well, here's all the prospects. Like, that's not how you do it. We said it this offseason. You can't just say, here's the Rockford Ice Hogs as the Blackhawks and figure it out from here. Like that's just not how it's gonna work. Next season, you will see Lukas Reichel. You will see Philip Kurashev. You will likely see some of these young defensemen like an Alex Vlasic, like an Alec Regula. Isaac Phillips might be coming up. You might see some of these junior players maybe jump to the professional game. Like I think next season you're going to have a lot more of the young prospects sprinkled in with some of the veterans. I don't think many of the veterans are going to be left over other than Seth Jones, maybe one of Connor Murphy, Jake McCabe. As is really not much. There's not much bolted down to the floor with this team right now. So I think you're going to get an injection of youth next season, but it'll still be a learning curve. It'll be a learning season.
Yeah, that'll be growing pains, and those are to be expected. But that, I think, I just don't know for people who are saying like, oh, call people up and see what you have. Why? What is it? This season is a wash. Like. And it's not like they tried and failed, and now you have to just live with the fact that, okay, like last year we're like maybe playoffs, maybe just maybe. Then they suck, and you got to battle through the entire season and try to salvage what you can.
Yeah,
this year is exactly as it was planned to go. This is exactly what it's supposed to look like. This is exactly how this roster is built, and I don't know what throwing up Josiah Slavin is going to do. And you have to remember, as fans, it would be irresponsible for Kyle Davidson to make a move to appease the fans, to throw them a cookie and say, all right, well, we know it's been tough, so here's Lukas Reichel. Yeah, we lost 4-3 instead of 4-2. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't accomplish anything aside from bringing up a prospect that might not be ready yet and putting them in a bad situation and learning bad habits. And then you start getting in the B conversation again, like you've done with some other prospects you've had to move on from. So we just got to suck it up. There's only more to go.
Yeah, this season, if you don't believe it yet, I don't know what to tell you. This season it's not going to happen, and it was by design not going to happen. Look at the Rockford Ice Hogs. Look at some of the young players that what they're doing down there. Keep your eye on the junior leagues. Keep your eye on the NCAA. Look at what some of those guys are doing down there. and get excited for the next season and the season after and the season after, because this year is not it. I understand. We talked about this last night. I understand you want to watch a winning team every year. That's not the case. Like, that's not the case. And this, recycle of the roster, this rebuild was overdue. And here it is now. Here it is now with a new head coach, a new GM, a very much brand new front office conglomerate. And I think it's year one of an extended time frame to get this team back to the point where you can point and say, oh, they're a cup contender. This year, wins and losses doesn't matter. What matters is the growth of your prospects that are currently here, and being in the best position to get the best up and coming prospects going into next season and the season after. Being in the running for Connor Bedard or Adam Fantilli or Matvei Michkov or Leo Carlson, like, that is what is important right now. And how Lucas Reichel develops, how Josiah Slavin is developing, how Landon Slagert is developing, how Kevin Korchinski looks, how Nolan Allen looks. Like, those are the guys that are important right now. And yeah, they're not in the NHL. You don't need to just put them in the NHL to make them important. What they're doing right now is very important. And we've made the point a number of times with past players like Duncan Keith and Corey Crawford and Nicholas Hjalmarsson needing time in the minor leagues, needing extra years in junior. Brent Seabrook needing extra time in juniors after being drafted before they made the jump. They needed that. Like, Duncan Keith didn't jump into the league as a 19-year-old and win a Norris Trophy. Like, that's unrealistic to expect that out of
growing pains, even with them waiting too and playing some time. When they did come,
absolutely,
there was nights where you looked at both those guys like, uh-oh.
Yeah, think about the 2005 and 2006 seasons. Like, those guys were on those teams, and the teams were not good. Yeah. So you have to go through that, and just wanting instant success every year, it just doesn't happen.
As you can tell, Greg is having some connection issues, so we're trying to get him reestablished. In the meantime, why don't we throw up another question here, Steven, if we can? This one comes from Colin. It says, if Taves continues scoring and Kane is still Kane, then what would reasonable returns look like for both players? I've heard of Kane fetching a similar return to Giroux, but assuming both players give multiple teams they'd like to accept a trade to, what would the return look like? Well, that's the important thing to keep in mind. And I think we're trying to do our best to remind everybody that it will not be every contender in the bidding war for Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane. Those guys have carte blanche to say, I'll accept a trade to here, and that's it. They can get whatever they want to do. They have the power to do. So maybe Kyle Davidson comes to them and says, hey, the Dallas Stars really want you, Patrick Kane. No, I don't want to go to Dallas. Okay.
Yeah.
Back to the drawing board, right? So if it comes down to only 2 or 3 teams bidding for those guys, the return's probably going to be less than if they were just like up for grabs for everybody. So I'm not saying curb your enthusiasm or curb your expectations, but it is going to limit the return. So if you want to go back to the Claude Giroux trade, I'm pulling it up here. The Flyers received forward Owen Tippett, who was one of those early picks that kind of needed a change of scenery, kind of a Kirby Doc style thing, and a first-round pick in the 2024 or 2025 draft. That remains to be seen. And a third-round pick in the 2023 draft. The Panthers also got back Connor Bunneman and German Rubstov and a 5th-round pick in the 2024 draft. So lots of moving parts, but you're looking at a first-round pick and a top prospect to begin the conversation. And look, there's not a lot of teams who are interested in moving out of this draft, by the way.
Right.
So keep that in mind, too. That's why it's so impressive that he already has 2 in the first round this year, his own and Tampa's. But that could be the difference between, hey, give us a 2023 first rounder and we'll call it a deal, right? If it's 2024 or beyond, they might get a little more in return. So that's going to be the balance that Davidson has to find.
Yeah, and I think, it's tough because we all expected more in the Alex DeBrincat trade, and I hate to agree, but I think we do have to kind of like scale back what we're thinking Patrick Kane might get, what we're thinking Jonathan Toews might get. Like the thing is though with Toews, at the beginning of the season when we were hypothetically thinking about deals for him, we were thinking about what he did last year, and we were thinking you might get a draft pick for him. The way he's playing right now, and if he continues that up to the time where he decides, okay, I'm sick of it in Chicago, I do want to get traded. When he makes that decision, if he's still in the top 5 of faceoffs, if he's still scoring at a higher rate than we've seen in the last few seasons, he's going to be very valuable to a lot of these teams, and contending teams. If you could say, we can add Jonathan Toews, who's playing in a bounce back year at the deadline or before, to play like a second or third line role, like that's impressive for teams that are deep enough to be in contention at those times of the season. So I think maybe we might expect a little bit more than we originally did for Toews. But Kane, I mean, it's hard to gauge him because of what the production is, because we all still have belief in Patrick Kane because he's still Patrick Kane. But the production numbers, they don't jump off the page like I think a lot of people were, still myself included. I still expected him to look like, he's still Patrick Kane, even though the roster around him's not that great. It looks like the roster around him is starting to hamper him a little bit. I know he's getting points, but it's not goals. It's not 5-on-5 primary assists. Like it's secondary assists. It's not stuff that like jumps off the page, even though he still leads the team in points.
Yeah, and there's a good conversation going on in the chat with a few guys. I think that most teams are not going to be spooked by Patrick Kane's low numbers this year. They know who Max Domi and Andreas Athanasiou are. They understand that they're not Alex DeBrincat. They're not Artemi Panarin. They're just not. And I think he's also going to pick it up a little bit. He is shooting 4.5%.
Right. Yeah.
That's going to go up. He's had some really bad luck too. So I don't think teams are looking at like, well, I don't know if I want to trade a lot for Patrick Kane because he had a down year. Well, look at the guys around him, and that matters. And Sam actually asked a good question. Like, are Kane and Toews better than Giroux? I would say Kane is better than Giroux. I would not say Toews is better than Giroux. I think Kane has more value than Giroux does as a pending UFA, but I don't think Toews does at this point in his career. I mean, is Toews? If we're comparing careers, is Toews better than Giroux? Yes, I think so. Mm-hmm. But I think at this moment, I'd rather have Claude Giroux if I got Game 7, 1 game to win. Which player do I want? I think it's Claude Giroux.
Right. Yeah, Patrick Kane's still skill for skill. I would take over him, but not Toews.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, let's throw another one up here, Steven, before we get to our let everybody know about DraftKings. We'll do one more question before that. From Tom, hypothetical, let's say the Hawks get the number 1 pick. Team B has, let's say, the 2nd and 7th picks in the draft. In this coming draft, would you trade a chance to get Bedard for Fantilli and the best player available at 7? No, I'm taking Bedard. If I have the chance to take Bedard, I'm taking Bedard.
Absolutely. If you have a shot at Connor Bedard, you 100% take it. If you can get Fantilli and someone else, fine. But it's not going to be Connor Bedard. And
so let's look at just for funsies. Let's look at the Connor McDavid draft 2015. Connor McDavid is the unquestioned number 1 overall pick, right?
Yes.
2 was Jack Eichel, good player, no doubt. 7 is Ivan Provorov. Right now, would the Edmonton Oilers trade Connor McDavid for Jack Eichel and Ivan Provorov? No. They would hang up the phone immediately. And I'm looking at the top 10 here, aside from McDavid, Eichel, Dylan Strome, Mitch Marner, okay, Hanifin, Pavel Zacha, Provorov, Zach Werenski, Timo Meier, and Mikko Rantanen. There's your top 10. I don't know if I'm trading any combination of 2 of those guys for McDavid.
Marner and Werenski for McDavid? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't do any of those deals.
Marner and Rantanen might make me think about it.
I think that those guys are.
I still wouldn't, but I'd at least think about it.
Yeah, and they're great players, but they're not generational types. Like it's
right.
I don't know. I think having the dude sometimes, like the one guy you can turn a game on his head on his own, is more valuable than having two really good players for a long. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to say because we say over and over again the Hawks won with their depth, yeah, but they also had Patrick Kane,
right?
and he was the guy delivering on those huge moments. How many times? And like Jonathan Taves, the Athletic just did a thing for him last week in their NHL Top 100, just recapping how dominant Taves was for a long time. Like we forget that there was a legitimate argument between Crosby and Taves.
Yeah.
So much to the point that the Athletic ran a poll back then and more GMs would have taken Taves than Crosby. I mean,
yeah.
So the Hawks had the benefit of depth and the generational players. So that's the question. But yeah, I don't know. And Jason says Eichel and Marner, yes. Eichel's health is such a concern. He's always hurt, and he's a certified Pudwack. You gotta factor in the Pudwack factor.
Well, at the time of the draft, you wouldn't have known that he would have been so injury prone or had injury issues. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any combination of those two players that could turn, like you said, turn a game like McDavid. And from every draft analyst that we've talked to, that has really broken down this draft class so far, this leading through this draft year, we talk about Bedard along with Fantilli and Michkov as like those are the three guys that are in that position where you want to be in the top three because you're going to get a big potential franchise changing player. But it's still Bedard and then Fantilli and Michkov in a second. They're all three the top tier, but Bedard is at a tier of his own. So if you have an opportunity to get a player like that, you do it.
I agree. All right. Hey, hockey fans, it's finally here, right? Hockey season. It's time to light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Listen up. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Here's what I'm looking at tonight. Tampa at Buffalo. I'm doing a Tage Thompson anytime scorer and a Brandon Hagel anytime scorer. That's plus 575. I'm betting $1 to win 675. Not the craziest bet in the world, not the most risky bet in the world, but hell, it's fun. I love those same game parlays, and you will too. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code CHGO. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do, only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code CHGO. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
And when you're making all those bets, those $1 bets, they can, if you hit on a couple of them, you can rack up some serious cash and you're going to be looking great. One thing I know about good bettors and people in Vegas, when they go out there and they put down the bets, win the bets, the high rollers, they need a good pair of sunglasses. And that's where our friends at Shady Rays come into play. Quality sunglasses at a affordable price. They never understood why sunglasses were so expensive, so they set out to change it. You don't have to break the bank for quality sunglasses this fall because our friends at Shady Rays have you covered. They are premium polarized shades featuring world-class optical clarity, substantial durability, and styles catered to everyone and every lifestyle. The best part about Shady Rays is they have the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. They will send you a replacement pair if you lose or break your shades, free and with no questions asked. If you drop them in a lake, drop them off a cliff, anything like that, they will replace them. And even with that strong of a protection program, they still manage to make quality that is as good as anyone on the market. And the Shady Rays customers will agree because they have over 200,000 5-star reviews. I'm not the best at math, but I know that's over 1 million stars combined. Shady Rays, they also do something great with every purchase. They provide 10 meals to fight hunger in America and have donated over 20 million meals to date. So for our listeners, our exclusive CHGO listeners, Shady Rays is going to run their deepest deal of the season. When you go to shadyrays.com and you use the promo code CHGO, you can get 50% off when you buy 2 or more pairs. That is buy one, get one free. You can get 2 pairs of Shady Rays for as low as $54. That is a tremendous deal. Again, redeem only at shadyrays.com when you use the promo code CHGO, and you can find their best and newest shades right there.
All right, let's get a couple more in here before we wrap up. Go ahead, Steven. Throw up who's next. This is from T-Hawks29, again from our CHGO Diehards Discord page. Mailbag question: who will have the better record at the end of the season, the Chicago football team or the Hawks, and who will have the better draft pick? Well, right now, the Bears have the number 2 pick. They're well ahead of the Texans. Well, not well ahead, I guess 2 games ahead of the Texans, so anything can happen. But they look pretty locked into that 2 spot. It's hard to say because we don't know. I'm confident the Hawks will win more games this year than the Bears do. I'll go on record and say that.
I think they already have.
I guess like a winning percentage.
Winning percentage.
Well, the Bears are 3-8, right?
3-9, right?
9 now.
Yeah,
I don't count last week because Justin Fields wasn't there. Count.
Yeah, I think based off winning percentage, win percentage, not point percentage, win percentage. I think we might be looking at a better Bears record, but it'll be close. But yeah, it's hard to guess with draft position because with the NHL it's a lottery. The Blackhawks could end up having the 4th worst record, but get the 1st overall pick. Like that's how the lottery works. But I am in the camp that rarely puts on tinfoil hats, but when I do, it is because I believe that the NHL will not allow Connor Bedard to go to Arizona if the opportunity is there for him to go to a market like Chicago.
Interesting. Bears winning percentage 250, Hawks winning percentage 381 as of this moment.
Okay.
I will take the Hawks on that one, I think.
Okay.
I think they'll have a better percentage. All right, Steven, how many more do we have here? All right, here's from Lafferty Daniel, who joins us on every show. It seems that my prediction that Seth Jones was going to have a terrible analytic year on a terrible team is coming true. He has no forwards that can generate offense. Yeah, that's
is this a question?
True. Yeah, it's more of a statement than anything, but yeah, that's accurate. And look, he's not the strongest analytic guy anyway, because a lot of the stuff that Seth Jones does doesn't show up on his fancy graph. Nothing against those things, but if you looked at the one against what was it, the Montreal game?
Yeah.
Caleb Jones looked like Nicholas Lidstrom if you're going by the game score sheets.
Right.
Like he was all like the best Hawk by a mile. And most people I know here don't love Caleb Jones. So there's only so much those analytics will tell you. But yes, Seth is certainly the victim of not having great teammates and really being the only defenseman on the team that can move the puck with any sort of regularity.
He's their only offensive threat as a defenseman, only real offensive threat as a defenseman. And yeah, I mean, he has to play in every situation. And he's the number 1 defenseman on most NHL teams. He's a top line guy on most NHL teams. But I think because of the situation he was brought into, he's playing from behind with Blackhawks fans. And no matter what he does, I think there's just going to be a portion of people that just say, he's terrible. Get him out of here. Buy him out and we'll eat the $4.5 million for 15 years or whatever it is to buy out his contract. Right. Yeah. So, it's look, like you look around the room, like who's helping him? No one. It's Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Seth Jones. Those are the top 3 guys, and those are the guys that are going to have to shoulder so much, and they don't really have the supporting cast to really do anything about it.
All right, let's get through these last 2 real quick here. Go ahead, Steven, throw them up. Landon McClelland says, hey guys, pick one. Would you rather have Korchinski turn out to be as good as Makar, to rebuild around, or this year's draft pick turned out to be a mirror image of Kane in his prime if we draft Bedard, Fantilli, Mitch Calvert, Carlson. You know what? Honestly,
that's tough.
I think Cale Makar is like reinventing the position. Honestly, like I think when he's done, he might be like a Mount Rushmore type defenseman. So
yeah,
I mean, I just think Bedard's gonna be better than Kane.
Yeah.
So it's hard to, you know what I mean? Like, so if the ceiling is Kane or Makar, if we're just going by the player, right? What they bring, what they offer, take away 3 Stanley Cups because we're just plugging in a player on a roster. I think I'm taking Makar.
Yeah. Prime Patrick Kane and getting into his prime right now, Cale Makar. I think for the next decade, you could pencil in Cale Makar in the Norris conversation.
Yeah.
And for Patrick Kane, like even in his prime, he was a tremendous player, elite, all worldly player. In his prime, you know, he didn't stand out like Cale Makar does.
He's one-dimensional.
Well, yeah.
Right.
And Makar is like you said, like he's what I'm gonna say something that I think a lot of people may think I'm jumping the gun here, but what Bobby Orr did to defensemen back in the 60s and 70s, I think we're gonna see a wave of that with Cale Makar.
Yeah.
And
he's the kind of guy that's gonna change the way the game is played.
Yeah.
Play the way coaches think of defensemen. You know, like yeah, I mean,
so yeah, if we're saying Korchinski is a perennial Norris Trophy candidate and a cornerstone to the franchise, I think I take that. But again, to the point you made, I think Connor Bedard is going to be better than Patrick Kane was.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's go. We got one more to go here. Let's jump at it real quick and we'll wrap up. This one from Laffer. Oh, we did this one already. This is the one about Seth Jones. Here we go. Skokes. Hey, Skokes. He's always with us. If you were to bet on it, what draft picks do the Hawks land with? I have no idea. The betting odds are the same, right? It's like there's no advantage to 1, 2, or 3. Aren't the percentages the same?
As far as the lottery?
Like the top 3, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So off the top of my head, I believe the worst record has an 18.5% chance at first overall. And then I think second worst is 17.5. I think it goes down by like 1%.
It's very minimal.
Yeah. It's very small in the grand scheme of things. But again, as I said before, I will put on the tinfoil hat to say that Connor Bedard will not land in a market like Arizona and likely land in a market like a Chicago or maybe in Anaheim or maybe it's not going to be Arizona.
Can you imagine Bedard and Zegras and
yeah, here we go. Here's the Columbus. Yeah, no thanks. Ottawa, if they stick around, wouldn't it be interesting if Canadian markets landed McDavid, Matthews, and Bedard?
Wouldn't it?
Interesting. Yeah. Look, I know, I know it's not kosher to say it's rigged. But if there's ever going to be a draft that I want to be rigged for Chicago, it'll be this one.
I just think it's funny that Sidney Crosby ended up in Pittsburgh and Patrick Kane ended up in Chicago and Alexis Lafreniere got to New York, and it's just these things have a way of working out. So
and Toronto got Austin Matthews.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and bet on them to get the third pick because I always lose my bets.
Okay.
So there you go.
Do they move down into third or up into third?
Down.
Down. Oh, oof. That's rough.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap things up. Thanks for joining us today. Greg sends his apologies. His as Wi-Fi can be, it's a fickle beast.
Yeah.
And he's just failing him today. It's happened to everybody. So sorry he wasn't able to be with us the entire show, but no worries. He'll be with us tomorrow. We're live at 2:30 from our West Loop studios after Hawks practice. So we'll have a little bit of news to share. So join us at 2:30. On your way out, make sure you smash that like button. And one final reminder, it is Cyber Monday at the CHGO Locker. Save up to 50% off of everything. CHGO Die Hard, save an additional 20%. That's 70% off Cyber Monday at chgolocker.com. If you're not a Die Hard yet, go to allchgo.com. Sign up to become a Die Hard. You're going to get a free shirt or hat right off the bat, and then you can plug in that additional 20% on anything else you want to add to the store with that initial 50% off. So it's a great day to be a Die Hard. Every day is a great day to be a Die Hard, but especially today, go to chgolocker.com to take full advantage of our Cyber Monday deals.
Do it. You're already on your computer. Once the show's over, go over to CHGO Locker and pick up that merch.
Stock up. All right, fellas. Well, and not just fellas, gals, and everybody watching us in the chat. Thanks for being here. We always appreciate it. We'll talk to you Tuesday at 2:30 on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.